I have a bit of a confession to make. I'm not that into anime. Don't get me wrong, over the course of the last like couple of years, I have broadened my horizons and started watching more anime, but growing up I just really wasn't into it. I've seen the ones, everybody's seen Dragon Ball Z, whichever generation you're from. You've seen Dragon Ball Z. I've seen Death Note. I've seen a lot of the Marvel animes, but for some reason just animes just never really clicked. But one thing I very much love, and I've loved it for years, is the Terminator franchise. And I was very shocked, but also kind of intrigued by the concept of a Terminator anime. I saw a little bit of a teaser announcement like way back when, but then it just kind of like went radio silent for what I understand. At least I didn't get anything on my feed. And like I said, I wasn't really too much into anime. Like I was intrigued enough, but I wasn't like so invested in like what this anime could be that like I followed up on it. So it kind of just left my mind. But what was it like last week? As of this recording, they Netflix dropped the anime, and I have to say this anime is so good. I'm gonna try not to get into like too much spoiler, but there are some things I would love to talk about. First of all, you actually don't need to watch all the movies. Like I think you should. I mean, the movies are pretty good. I love the first two. The third one was pretty okay, and I personally like Salvation, but I know not a lot of people don't. And then after that, yeah, those movies sucked. I trust me, the last one, whichever one, spoiler alert, whichever one John Connor dies in, I just kind of walked out because I was stupid decisions in that franchise. But either way, Terminator the franchise still holds a special place in my heart, and I was very happy to see that this anime does Terminator so much justice. First of all, the characters, they're not the most original in terms of like character motivation and plot development, but they do service the story pretty well, And we can't talk about a Terminator project without the actual Terminator. If you've seen the other movies, you'll remember way back when in the first one, the Terminator was like almost like a horror movie character. He was like a slasher. There's a YouTuber that actually coined the phrase cybernetic Jason Voorhees, and yeah, no, that description fits the Terminator perfectly. Of course, over the years, Terminator has become more of like an action franchise, with like one-liners and all this other cool stuff that we all know and love, including myself. I'm not gonna shit on the Terminator franchise for going more action. I still loved the movies growing up, but the first one was so creepy, and like how slow and how like methodical he was, and how he was just so robotic. I'm happy to report that the Terminator in this show captures that essence so perfectly. Matter of fact, he doesn't even talk like at all until like the very, very last episode. And if you watch the English dub, Timothy Oliphant is actually the voice of him, and he does like that cold, calculated, cybernetic, just assassin voice like so well. Like he sounds not a human in this role, and it sounds amazing. There are scenes. There was one minor spoiler if you're interested. I'm not gonna get into too much of the plot, but like this one scene, I have to talk about it. It was pretty much an homage to that first police station shootout in the 1984 film, and he is just so cold and so menacing. He's just swiftly going in and out of like each room, picking off officers, and it is such. It's solidified in my mind that this anime is like, first of all, worth talking about and worth watching. I was very shocked that this anime isn't really getting talked about. Like I get it, like Netflix kind of just like they announced it and then they shadow dropped it, which like, yeah, it's a very weird practice. You would assume that like, oh, maybe the anime is not that great, But like I said, me personally, I think this anime is pretty solid, and like I said, the Terminator looks absolutely. He seems absolutely menacing. Just ooh, I'm gonna rewatch it after this recording. Like that's how good it is, and they leave off for a second season, and I really hope, and hopefully with this video, hopefully this gets out, and hopefully people can actually like, you know, like if you haven't heard about it, then you know people might be like, oh, you know, like let me go check this out, because like we need the streams for this show, because I want a season 2. I want Netflix to see that this show is worth keeping around, and I want them to just make another season. You know, I hope it doesn't overstay its welcome. You know, like maybe like another 2 or 3 after this one, and then just finish out the series. But it is just so good. And like I said, you don't actually need to watch the rest of the series, like any of the other movies, because it stands pretty good on its own. I mean, my wife, she actually like this is her first exposure to the franchise, and she was able to follow it pretty well. I mean, they don't really name drop anybody. They make one passing reference, I guess, but for the most part, whether you're a returning fan from the beginning of the franchise or this is like your first exposure, this show is just perfect for anybody around, like all around. So honestly, if I would rate it, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 seems pretty nice. But let me know what you guys think. Whether, you know, did you watch it and did you enjoy it? Is this your first exposure to it? As a returning fan, are you happy with the direction possibly that this franchise is going? But let me know in the comments. Thank you so much. Bye, I guess.